It's time for Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock.
Believe me when I say we have a difficult time ahead of us. But if we are to be prepared for it, we must first shed our fear of it. I stand here without fear because I remember that I am here not because of the path that lies before me, but because of the path that lies behind me. I remember that for 100 years we have fought these machines. And after a century of war, I remember that which matters most. We are still here! Tonight, let us make them remember we are not afraid!
No fear here on Declare Your Independence from me, Ernest Hancock, from the Sun Desert, west of Phoenix. Our solution is Occupy the Land, occupytheland.org. We're another Occupying the Land individuals like our retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Kwiatkowski. Kwiatkowski, she was in the Pentagon doing her thing and making sure that a lot of us out here of libertarian persuasion knew what was going on even before she retired. And she was there when 9/11 happened. The Pentagon got hit. She has her opinions on a lot of things she's published. Mostly she writes, her stuff is posted at LouRockwell.com. She has articles about her work with the Department of Defense, published in the American Conservative. She's on talk shows and in movies and a lot. And she just, you know what kind of American she is? She's an American. And that's what we're going to be talking about real quick. Karen has articles regularly come out. She has one at the top of the page on Freedom's Phoenix right now. And it's about the No Kings protest. And that doesn't, we get it. Freedom's answer, what's the question? And it's not like they don't want kings. They just want their king. They want to do what they want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that you guys get a chance to hear her perspective on Ukraine, on Israel, on Venezuela, on the economy, Europe in general. We'll give you all the weapons you'll buy. And then they go, well, we don't want to actually buy them. Can't you just give them to us a little bit? And Zelensky went to Washington and wore a suit. Woo! He must be desperate. So, we're going to find out everything about everything. The economy, silver, gold is just representative of the worthlessness of the U.S. dollar. What happens when we go off the petrodollar and all of a sudden they're trading for oil and other currencies? All those dollars come home. And what does that mean? Inflation. This is why you're seeing silver and gold go up. It's going to have big ramifications for this country. There's always the next war. Karen, pick it up from there. Tell us everything. I know you got limited time.
Yes.
Let's go ahead. We're going to do it in less than an hour, and I want to make sure the audience knows what you know. Tell us everything.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I don't know everything, but we are seeing change roll out, and the changes, like you said, it's all related to the finances of the government of the United States, the empire of the United States. So, people are losing faith in the money. We are the supplier of weapons to 47% of the world's global weapon market built in the United States. We sell them high-priced weapons that don't do very much sometimes, oftentimes have an incredible logistics tail that's quite expensive. And the way we get customers for our weapons very often is to, strong arm them, pretty much. Help them start wars, help them fight wars, create crises where they feel like they need our help. And so to get all kinds of help from us, they buy our overpriced weapons. Well, this has been a model for quite a long time, as everybody knows. This war, this empire, and the way the empire runs its so-called business of war. And what's happened, of course, was what always happens, competition. The people have China, Russia, just to name a few, India, all kinds of folks have developed their own industries because they don't want to be tied into the United States and dependent on it. So they have their own military industries as well as other industries. So now the world produces more. And by contrast, the United States produces less. So we're in a decline. We're in a declining market. So what do we do instead of competing harder, which was actually kind of what MAGA was about, make America great again. I don't know what the again part was, but to make America productive, to kind of infuse the heartland with some new industrial and productive energy. That was why people liked Trump's message, because he said this is what he was going to do. Of course, that's not what he's doing. He's strengthening the state, and the state is the state of the United States. The government of the United States is competing poorly around the world. So our solution, because when all you have is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail, is to create wars and to sell arms and force people to buy arms and do other things. And I won't get off on a tiny tangent, but Qatar now is getting ready to build a little portion of their own little military aircraft fighter plane training facility up in Idaho at Mountain Home, I think it is.
Yeah, what's up with that?
Yeah, well, I mean, paybacks suck, don't they? Qatar has spent a lot of money on the United States government and bought a lot of weapons that the United States wants to sell, and that strong arming. Hey, we're defending you against this. We're going to do this and that. You buy our weapons because you have oil money, you have gas money. Actually, that's not going as far as it used to. So now we have to provide sweeteners. And one of the sweeteners is that. That's an example of a great U.S. government sweetener to continue to maintain our customer base for global weapons. Because weapon production, that's all good and well, right? I mean, high tech, AI. It does have some industrial significance, in every single congressional district of this country on purpose, by design. But it's not, weapons are made to be destroyed. They are made to destroy lives. They are made to destroy the environment. They are made to destroy infrastructure. They are made to destroy other people's logistics and industrial capacity. So they're very destructive. That's by nature. So when you spend all your capability building things that don't build other things, that's like saying, and we'll see this in the future if we haven't already, that's like saying I'm going to put my money in the bank, and instead of the bank paying me interest on my money, they're just going to take they're just going to burn it. They're just going to keep eating away at my principal, and then my $100 is eventually going to be down to $50, but that was the price I paid for putting my money in a bank. Okay, well, nobody would do that, but that's kind of the analogy for how we produce weapons and how our overdependence of our economy, and certainly the government of the United States, overdependence on the production of things that really don't produce anything. And
yeah, but you get a lot of broken windows and it makes your economy go.
There you go. Well,
break some windows.
Well, and when you say that, the broken window fallacy and all that. Well, Trump, he doesn't know anything about these things. People think, oh, Trump's a man of the people. Trump knows what I know. Trump knows what we, the American people, know. No, he doesn't. Trump is a New York real estate business person who lives on debt, loves to take risks with other people's money. And like he says, it usually pays off for him. He will tell you that. It pays off for him. So that's what he's learned. He does not know about productive economics. In fact, the very fact that his career, I think, is all, real estate and rents and things like that, and golf courses, things that you build it and then people pay fees, rich people pay fees to use your facility kind of thing. He has a very narrow view of the economy, and that's why he loves tariffs. Tariffs are great. I can just use more tariffs. There's an unlimited amount of tariffs that he can use. He's talking about 150% tariffs, 200% tariffs, because in his mind that makes sense. But in the real world of the economy, of economic forces, it makes no sense. He is playing a risky game with tools that he really doesn't understand. And that's kind of a problem. And I think actually most Americans are, even Democrats, understand the economy a little bit more broadly than Trump does. But anyway, that's beside the point. We elected him. He's the president. We will see what happens. But anyway, so change is happening, if I want to talk about these wars, why would Trump truly? Trump says I stopped what 7 wars, and the 8th one is either Gaza or it's Ukraine. I can't remember. I
He's
can't.
going for a dozen. He wants that Nobel Peace Prize.
That's
really
right. That's
bad.
right. That's right. So he talks about ending wars or ending conflicts. And yet, if you look at all the ones he's talked about that he did, he either didn't do them at all, there was a peace process ongoing and it just happened coincidentally, or he said something and took full credit, which is actually, that's what he does sometimes. He takes full credit when he probably shouldn't be. But if you look at, he's counting them, that's unusual. He's sitting there, he's saying, I got this many, like it's on a ledger. And so Ukraine is on his list because that's so-called Biden's war. But it's America's war. It's the neocons' war. It's the war that replaced Afghanistan. It's the war, as Afghanistan was clearly lost and we had to leave, and Biden did it in such an ungraceful, stupid manner. But he left. Give him credit for that. Of course, Trump planned that. Trump had predicated that departure from Afghanistan. And we don't leave. The United States foreign policy, military policy, government policy is we don't end a war unless we got another one cooking and it's ready to be cooked. It's ready to be taken out of the oven and enjoyed, right? And so Ukraine was that war that was the follow-on from the Middle East and Afghanistan and whatnot. So he says it's Biden's war, but it's not really, because one of the reasons I think the Pentagon pushed back at Trump trying to end Afghanistan earlier was that they didn't have Ukraine ready yet to be that consumer of what America produces and how many and the people that run our government and influence our government make money. They make money off of war. And this is not uniquely American. I mean, who talks about making money off of war? All the Europeans, and then go back to previous, millennial. It's very common. War makes money for a certain class of people, and it also allows the government to increase not just it's take off the people, it's haul, but also its control over the people. Because in a wartime situation, it's unpatriotic to criticize the government. What better place to be as a politician where it's unpatriotic to criticize by the people? So anyway,
with these more collectivist countries like Russia and China, what's the mindset there? Just to maintain their regime, their control, because it costs them money. I mean, they're not have Lockheed Boeing. I mean, they got a collectivist state-owned run. What's the mindset there?
In fact, well, actually, there are people that are advocate that to revamp our own military-industrial complex, that we would adopt something like that. State industries that produce defense capability, not so much really for export and sale, although Russia and China do export and sell, and India too, their weaponry. It always tends to become a very profitable business because it's much easier to get people to fight than get people to work. So this is it's part of it, but you do see differences. I don't know much. Well, I don't know much about any of them. India I know least about, but in China, the state is on paper, and I think in practice, considers itself the vanguard of the people kind of thing. They consider themselves making China great again, okay, and Russia making Russia great, but by great they don't mean imperial, like we do, because we really inherited this imperial mindset from the same people that made our country, that wrote the Constitution. Our history has been a continuation of empire up until we got the whole continent, and then it extended, late 1800s, early 1900s. We took over the Spanish Empire in the Pacific, and then, moved into what the UK had lost, basically. So this, and our alliance with Israel very much reflects that imperial mindset. You know, people say, well, is Israel working for us or are we working for Israel? Well, it's both. But Israel has worked for us as an imperial, a pro-U.S. imperial vanguard in the Middle East. And we used them like that. Of course, they're a little bit smarter than us, so they used us more for their own.
For what? Let's focus on that a little bit.
Okay.
For what? You know, why?
Well, oil.
We got to have Israel there to, it's
No.
oil. So
Well,
that's just sort of business.
Israel's agenda of a greater Israel, certainly we're seeing that now, but it's always been a greater Israel. And if you go back to this, the Zionist theme is from the river to the sea. There's always, it's been
From
that
the Euphrates
that
River.
way. Yes, I know.
In Iraq.
They said, oh, it's in Jordan. No, Euphrates. So, but no, the expansionist impulses of Zionism, they match nicely. That's their agenda. And also financial control and power over their neighbors, you know. That's their agenda. It works. That's what they want. We help them with that. But they also help us with our agenda, which has been around for quite some time, in the 50s and the 40s, the 30s with Aramco, and it's you know, oil and energy. So, and taking over what the British had, you know, trying to be the top dog in the Middle East, controlling their resources, ensuring that they support the dollar, that the dollar is the primal, you know, or the primary, you know, the global reserve currency for energy that the whole world needs. And so that was our agenda. And, you know, we remember Carter's, the Carter Doctrine, which basically said if it impacts oil in the Middle East, it's in American interest. I mean, that was written down. So this is no mystery. This is no like, oh, we're actually doing something else. No, we're doing what we said we were doing. And Israel's disruption, Israel's capability to assassinate, to produce wars, to fight wars, to keep things destabilized in the Middle East, it works very well hand in hand with our agenda, which was to control oil. And that's where we are today. I mean, you know, this Qatar gas and oil, and you know, the arms that we give or that we sell at huge markups to Turkey, to Saudi Arabia, to Egypt. Of course, we pretty much pay for the arms we give Egypt, but and Qatar, you know, and all these.
But why does Qatar want to have a base or school? I thought when they first announced this Idaho thing, that they were giving them some kind of contract to build or something, not build themselves a base.
I mean, well, because, why wouldn't they? And they have the leverage. Because why do they have the leverage? Well, right now they have the leverage in part because Israel bombed Doha and tried to kill the Hamas negotiators.
Yeah, but Trump handed them the phone and say you're sorry.
Can't do that. We're not the big dog anymore. Our dollar's worth crap. When your dollar's worth a lot, then you run the show. They were dealing on the dollar. You're controlling the dollar. You call the shots. Yes, I will sell you these weapons. Here's the price. There's no negotiation. They pay the price. Now there's negotiation. Now, you know, look at the wondrous cities and alternate, you know, non-oil based industrialization that's being worked on in parts of the Middle East.
Yeah,
these guys are taking their wealth and they are doing what Trump promised he would do for our country. They're making themselves capable of living in a post-oil world, and if oil continues to
post-dollar world,
and a post-dollar world, because yes, post-oil, post-dollar, that's right. And of course, the BRICS. Trump thinks, oh, the BRICS are trying to declare war against the United States. Oh my gosh, no. The dollar is such an unreliable, wasted, devalued, and unpredictable currency that the whole world says, wait a minute, you know, I liked it before, it was okay, it worked out great, but now it doesn't. So what alternatives do we have? So the alternatives are strengthen their own domestic economies. China, Russia, India, all doing that.
And buy gold.
That's right. And have some alternatives to the dollar. It's just what Americans are doing. What are Americans doing? Well, they realize their house is probably the only asset they're ever going to have, most of them, if they have one. They want it, they can't buy it now, but people who have houses are keeping them, right? Because that's the only asset they have. Gold's up. Why is gold up? Well, it's an asset. And anything else you can think of that is an asset that is going to hold its value better than this helicopter dollar, you know, this printed, it's not even printed, you know, it's produced in vapor by the Fed and the Treasury. All this debt. People are saying, you know, this debt, actually, I don't think I want that. Well, that's what BRICS are doing. The BRICS countries and countries that aren't part of BRICS are all looking at that. Well, anyway, that's predictable. And it's not, necessarily harmful. It's not, it's just a fact of life. It's reflecting the crappy dollar. And why do we have a crappy dollar? Because of Washington, because of our policies, because of the people that influence Washington, largely military industrial complex, but also other industries. Look at Big Pharma. What value has Big Pharma provided to Americans other than increasing the size of our graveyards? What real value, honestly, have they provided? But they certainly were able to churn dollars, right? They certainly had high profit margins. People, stock market's great. Look at Pfizer. Let's buy Pfizer, just like you would buy Raytheon and General Dynamics, and even Boeing. These are government-backed industries that seem to be very profitable. It turns out Americans are realizing, you know what? That's actually not what they're showing us is kind of a charade. And they
get a farm like Karen did.
That's right. But people are seeking places for security for whatever small resources that they have.
Get a farm like Karen did.
Yeah. Well, they're not making any more land. It's true. So anyway, but
well, this is one thing I want to ask you to kind of confirm my bias.
Mm-hmm.
When silver started getting close to 40, we have a family chat and no politics, economics. It's just grandkid football games and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And finally, I broke. I broke, man. I said, all right. I just want to say this. All you guys think you got wealth because our kids, work great companies. They got their retirement, their 401ks, their IRAs. My oldest daughter's 40 now. They're looking, woo, look how much money we got. And thanks for the silver you gave for our dowry. But, and it's going up and, it's all good. We got some metals, we got some this, but a lot of their wealth is in paper.
That's right.
And I'm going, get out of paper. Get out of the dollar, get assets, buy silver, gold. Dude, I'm telling you, now's the time. Just saying, I'm done saying, you're going to see what's happening. Yep. Boom! Silver goes over 50, and then I get a call from my oldest daughter. And I see it, and I answer the phone, $50. That's why she was calling. She was going, yeah, man, we're doing okay now. Woohoo!
She listened to your advice then. She tried to.
Well, the other kids, they're of this mind. They grew up in this stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't think they really realize a lot of their wealth is in companies they work for. They have some kind of incentive, the stocks, or blah, 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 blah. And they're counting that as their retirement, their wealth, their future. And I'm going, no, take the tax hit. We did this in the late 90s. A lot of our libertarian friends did that. They liquidated everything, took the hit, and bought silver. They're glad they did now as they're hitting retirement. So the value, the stock market, what do you see is inevitable? What is coming?
Well, it's inevitable that the bubbles will pop. And there's many bubbles that we don't talk about. I would say there's a big government bubble. There's a government debt bubble. The government, businesses, of course, many of them influence the government, benefit from, first users of the printed money, the whole Fed thing enriches a small sector and then they own many companies. And if their profits go up when we have shares in those in our 401ks or whatever, we say, oh, it's great. It's all good if things go. But these guys and the American system itself, very financialized system doesn't produce anything. So that right there is that ought to be blinking red to everybody. What do we produce? And invest in that. If you want to invest in America, invest in what we produce. Don't invest in financial, games and things that are dependent on things that we have no way of understanding.
Everybody all in. It's ours now. Thanks for playing.
Yeah, exactly. So, this the bubble is business. You could say, well, it's certain industries, AI. They talk about the AI bubble. What are they really? What's the return on investment for this AI?
They get you to pay for their nuclear power plants.
Well, possibly, yeah. But we don't quite know or understand how that model makes money and produces value. It does produce some value, but it's not clear how to understand that, how to really truly invest and take advantage in that. But the other big bubble that I see as a anarcho-capitalist or a libertarian, is the government bubble, and that all this debt that they're operating on, and more debt. They're not paying any debt off. In fact, none of the budgets, the Republicans, they are none of them, Republicans, Democrats, nobody in government has any plan in their mind or on paper to pay off any of the principal of the debt they've accumulated, which I always say it's 41 trillion, but some people say it's 39 trillion. Okay, well, let's say 40 trillion. Yeah. Well, I'm not talking about the unfunded liabilities. My God, they're never going to pay that either. But this is actual debt that somebody holds a paper on and wants to get their investment back because they bought a bond. They bought long-term and short-term bonds, and they roll over all the time, and they want their money back. And we pay them back with more borrowed money, which we've been doing. That's not new. Everybody knows we borrow money and pay back. It's a Ponzi scheme. But the problem is people are so used to that, and they think, oh, yeah, well, debt gets paid back because, if I don't pay my credit card bill, I can either default and they can chase me down for a partial payment, or I do have to pay it, or I got to stop spending at some point, rebuild my, we have a plan for paying off our debt, right? We understand that if we don't pay our mortgage at some point, 3 to 10 months down the road, we'll get evicted. We understand this, okay? So there's a sense that you have to pay your debt. That's what the average person in America thinks. You have to pay your debt. We're not criminals. We believe you have to pay your debt. Well, the government doesn't believe that. And I think we think the government does believe they're going to pay their debt, but they're not. They have no interest.
They're cranking up the debt on the credit card.
That's
you
right.
might as well spend it because, it's
right.
going to go anyway.
That's right. And if you look at the government as criminals, which of course I do and you do, they are criminals. It's a criminal enterprise. What they're doing, this rapid ramping up of debt, this rapid accumulation of debt with no intention to pay, that's a bubble. And it's also a crime. It's also a crime. So who's going to hold the government responsible, right? Like we have any power over our government. I mean, does any person think there's any power over the government? We can't get them to pay their debt. We can't get them to stop borrowing. We can't control anything that the government does. It's criminal, and it's getting ready to short everybody. Basically just walk away. And so what happens? Well, those who literally invested in government bonds, foreign people, domestic corporations, BlackRock, whoever's buying these things is not going to get paid. And then they're going to adapt to that because, and their bubbles are going to pop, start popping, popping and popping. And then eventually this lack of money that we all thought was going to be there, it was going to keep coming. I don't know, like your Social Security check or your Medicare payment or whatever you're getting that you thought, oh, that's great. How about a state and federal grants to your local county government, which has probably in every county in this country has grown over the last 50 years and has huge buildings and lots of employees. Well, what happens when all that dries up? Because it will, because it's run on debt. Then what happens? They're going to increase our property taxes. Those property taxes are already unaffordable for most people in the rural heartlands and even in the urban places. So what happens then? Well, it's called a bubble popping. It ain't pretty. It is harsh, okay? People suffer. Bad things happen. We look at certain parts of the world and go, oh, I'm glad we don't have to live like that. Well, we will. We will have to live like that. Get ready for it. If you're counting on the dollar and this system perpetuating, because it is going to pop. The debt bubble's going to pop. The government's got the biggest one.
What does that look like? When it says it pops, all of a sudden all your assets are
we're seeing it, okay,
up or down, or what happens? It's happening now,
Yeah, when you think of a bubble popping in our minds, we think of a big balloon popping, right? But it's really more like 1,000 little bubbles popping. And so we're already seeing it. Look at the layoffs. Look at all the layoffs. And Intel, for example. Intel, that the government, I don't know, Trump, I don't know how he did this, bought 10% of Intel, right? How did he do that? He didn't consult me for it. I don't want Intel stock, but apparently I own some now because Trump bought some, made it a government-owned, partial-owned company, and he's doing it with other companies as well. But Intel was in big trouble, and they were laying off people. In fact, they were closing shortly before Trump got really mad at the guy that runs Intel, and then he turned into his friend after he got 10%. Shortly before that, Intel was closing down a huge facility that they had in Israel, partly because the Iranians had bombed it, and so it wasn't really functioning as desired. Plus, it's a war zone, and they were going to close that down. And that was one of many places Intel was cutting their centers, their employment numbers, their operations abroad and at home. And Trump got really mad, then, bought 10%. He doesn't want that bubble to pop, right? He's going to extend that bubble, even though it should be popping. That's just
America
one of
and her
examples.
interests.
That's right. One of 100 examples. So I think it's more like I'll give you just a normal example. We're kind of in a drought now. We had a great spring and summer with water, but now we're in a drought. And so we had some rain yesterday. Last night for 3-4 hours, we had some light rain. And yeah, it filled up. You could see there was water, but you know what? It all melted into the ground. It's dry again. And that's why I kind of like how it's going to happen. We have water, but there's no water's falling from the sky. But guess what? No accumulation here on the ground. It soaks in, it's gone, it disappears. That's how I think of the bubble popping. So as the government debt is repudiated and ignored, and becoming more and more expensive, and the government basically walks away from it because it has to, or it starts a great war. This is usually what they do. They start a great war, but we don't have enough people to fight great wars. Wars are not, they don't do the job they used to do. Because people don't fight wars, machines fight wars. So, we're going to say, well, there's all kinds of rain coming down, but it's not watering the ground. It's not helping us. It's not accumulating. It's not benefiting the people. And so guess what? I needed that rain. I needed that rain to grow food. I needed that rain to make the grass grow, feed my animals. And guess what? The grass is going. That's what it's going to look like. That's bubble popping, okay? So what do you got to do for that? Well, you need to store water, right? You need to store what you need to produce and keep your life going.
Oh,
and
it's getting worse
on
than
it
that.
Coming from the sky, coming from Washington.
I want to get your comment on this. The gold reserves in Fort Knox, we still have yet to get an audit or any. I have no idea what the hell's going there. Such lying sacks of snot. But the if we revalue it from $42, which is what it's valued at, to $4,500 or whatever, woohoo! All of a sudden we got $1 trillion. You know what we're going to do? We're going to take that gold. We're going to use it as collateral, give it to Federal Reserve. And then we get another $1 trillion and we go spend it. And we took our national debt from 38 trillion to 37 and we have no gold. And I'm going, oh, that's a deal, Yeah. So
that's like somebody getting a new credit card. I knew
right.
When I was in college, college kids, years ago, but we had credit cards. And people would get store credit cards because stores will, like JCPenney's, Belk's, all these places, stores, right? They give you credit cards. And I remember kids like 19 years old with they needed more money, so they went and got a new credit card. Okay, because that's how you get money. That's the government. It's a 19-year-old college kid that's never had a credit card before, and all of a sudden they realize if you get a credit card, then you can
order DoorDash.
Yeah, yes, right. So that's the government. But it has been done, like you're saying, there's revaluing. It's definitely a strategy. Of course, back when FDR did it, it included confiscation and mandates, laws to turn in gold, which, strangely enough, a lot of people did. They obeyed those laws. So I don't know. I don't know. But the government will use everything it can to avoid feeling pain on itself. It will inflict pain on the world. It will inflict pain on the American people. It will destroy the very host that it lives on parasitically. It will destroy it before it changes its way. I totally predict. I mean, I agree. That's coming.
Well, the Democrats wanted the Schumer shutdown was all about forcing them into paying for their new voters with health care from illegal, whatever the hell. And they held it out until this last weekend. That was, their plan is we're going to have a bunch of people in the streets, and then we're going to win something. And they have, almost any of these crowds are a bunch of old liberal boomers. I mean, you don't see any young. It's all old people wanting something. I have no idea. Now that this weekend has come and gone without hardly a blip, if anybody noticed of whatever, I wouldn't even know about it. We didn't put a couple of stories up on Freeman's Phoenix. And of course, Congress makes sure their paychecks keep going and suffer themselves. So this is now what? I mean, are the Democrats going to extend that? It's just a continuation of spending, and there's no solution.
Right.
So what are they going to do?
Actually, it's probably illegal, all the stuff the government is doing in terms of spending. But, they have a very complex spending system that relies on making money out of thin air, and they can't change it. They don't know how to change it. So the system is towards the end of what it's able to do to fix itself. It can't fix itself, and it can't change itself. So it's a big problem. And it will have an adjustment, okay? And a lot of, I mean, I say an adjustment, like a depression, like a Great Depression, but it will be much worse than that because for people, it'll be much worse than that for people because at the time of the Great Depression, where we hold that up to be kind of the worst thing, and of course that was caused by government also, uh, but people, more people lived rurally and did not consume what the way they do now. Like they didn't have DoorDash back then, right? I mean, people cooked food back then. People grew gardens back then. They bought food from their neighbors who grew, they got their
Liberty
milk.
Gardens.
Yeah, but I mean, that was just what they encouraged the city people to do. The country people, they didn't call them Liberty Gardens. It was just like that's how we live. We,
Right.
if we want to eat something, we grow it, we make it, we trade for it or whatever. But so that people didn't starve despite soup lines, which were legit in these urban areas or where you had people, and the Dust Bowl
Gotta be a food
drove
thing.
people that were really starving and had to, had a crisis of need, of human need in that time frame. But still, we could eat, we could live, we could access food. People understood how to do it. It wasn't beneath them to touch dirt, But what we have today is, of course, you've got the movement. You're part of it. I'm part of it. The back to the land movement, occupy the land, make food, understand where your food comes from, how it works. Okay, yeah, but that's tiny. You think, I don't know if we even have the 7 million so-called Democrats that showed up for the No Kings rally doing the back to the land thing. Um, Luckily, we got internet. People can learn much more quickly than they could back then. We can share how-tos, and I think that's the beauty of TikTok and YouTube and everything else. We can learn so much more rapidly what we want to learn. And so when we want to learn how to do food, how to grow food, or how to make do with what we have teachers everywhere. Everybody is everybody else's teacher. That's wonderful. So maybe that will make the difference in as the government collapses, that we won't be starving. But I don't, I worry about the urban areas, and I worry about the country areas that are near the urban areas. Okay, what kind of immigration from the cities will we see of the kind of people who, I shouldn't say the kind of people, they're Americans, but their preparation for surviving is very different than what the country people's preparation for surviving is. And there's going to be big conflict with that. It's going to be tough. And that's if the government totally collapses. But the thing is, we say, oh, well, the government's not going to collapse. Oh, yes, it is. It is. It is a massive bubble. Now, what will happen, what I think is the solution, of course, is a decentralization of we need states, counties, and cities to declare their independence. Ernie, that's what we need them to do. I mean, it's
Yeah,
like
make Arizona great again.
That's right. That's right. We need, and we're seeing it. I saw something really interesting, just a little tidbit of it. I couldn't verify it. I could not verify this, but they said that you remember the ruling that allowed corporations are people. They can donate, massive numbers. And
Yep,
the
Citizens
ruling,
United or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah. Citizens United, and the ruling to me made sense because it's a First Amendment ruling, and I love the First Amendment, right? So how can you penalize people for telling a story? Somebody told a story about Hillary Clinton in the election year, was not very pleasant, and it helped turn people away from Hillary Clinton. Well, if you needed any help. And so that was upheld. That was their right to do it. So basically, but it put massive amounts of money into our politics, and people don't like it. Well, it turns out, I don't know if it turns out, I haven't verified this, but I saw something yesterday, and it said states themselves can alter their own laws that where Citizens United said there's no limits, states can limit it, which they probably can, right? Because we have Ninth and 10th Amendment power that puts a great deal of if it's not named, it belongs to the states and the people. So we're seeing that. States pushing back. We're seeing, of course, state banks, interest in states having an asset base, issuing their own currency, or at least having some sort of state banks, like North Dakota has always had, but
Right.
other states are picking up on that. We have huge numbers of movements which are interstate secession movements, right? Eastern Oregon doesn't want to be part of Oregon. They want to be part of Idaho. Okay, great. California has a ton of these different things. How do you break up this massive fifth largest economy in the world? How do we do that? So there are solutions. They are decentralized solutions. Whatever the question, what's the answer?
Yeah.
Freedom.
Leave me alone, freedom.
So there are ways to figure out where that water went, right? That I don't see. It rained all night, yet I've got dry ground. Okay. Well, where'd the water go? How do I get more water? Well, decentralization, asserting independence. The states and cities and counties all need to do that. There's a really good secession movement in Illinois because Chicago sucks all the life out of the state. And it's all, of course, communist, socialist, more government, bubble, 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 debt, 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 debt. And the rest of Illinois is tired of paying for it. And so there's a hearty, healthy secession movement there. So the smaller we get, the less government we start out with. Now, over time, does government stay small? I don't know. But we are going to need small governments. And we need governments that are doing the minimum, not only because there's no money for them to do more than the minimum, but also because that's our tradition. That is our the founders thought that way. They said, government should be minimal because it is, as Tom, and I wrote this, I quoted Tom Paine in my article. I don't know if you have the current one up, but the one that's up on Lou Rockwell today, it was a lot about Tom Paine and what he said. And he said it and other people said it, but, government is a necessary evil. Now, as a libertarian, I don't think it's necessary, but he viewed it as a necessary evil, very untrustworthy, hard to manage. It must be kept small, or it will become, as the No Kings people, so-called, protested against, it'll become monarchy and tyranny, of course, which it really has become. That's why I give them the No Kings. I like the No Kings thing because it's no tyranny. And there's no doubt our government is tyrannical. No, absolutely no doubt. I don't care what party or what interest area you have. Our government has become obscenely tyrannical at most levels. So we got to break it up, reduce it, starve it, shrink it. That's kind of the solution. And of course, wars, back to the wars, create this power of the state, cause the state to be able to successfully suck the life out of an economy, suck the life out of the people that constitute that society.
Okay, I want to read this paragraph that you wrote, in Will We See a New Era of Truly Popular Anti-Statism? Like we have a choice. Any protest against authoritarianism and the state must be welcomed in the mode of Thomas Paine. Radical, brave, and with only his life to lose. He valued independence of self and mind. Always choose reason over the stupid crowd. Believe that blind faith in the state could be corrected by facts and logic. Yeah, when. He boldly welcomed trouble in his time so the next generation might have peace. Is that what's coming? Is it? Because I've been looking at this whole thing for decades of freedom's phoenix, the rebirth, but we have to go through the ashes. Yeah. The ashes coming. Are we ready?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And my brother, who's I call him a Marxist, communist Marxist, I don't know what he is, but, he hates the government too, just like I do. But he thinks more state will fix it. A better government can be put in its place, and then we would have all the things that we want from government.
Stop delegating authority to anybody. I mean, decentralized down. It's going to happen. It's but just, is it going to?
It absolutely is. But here's this is what bothered me about, we were having a conversation, texting or whatever, and he said, and I said, it's pretty cool that we're able to see this change happen in our lifetime. It's exciting. It's important. We need to participate in it, make the world a better place, even though the odds are, the odds may not be exactly with us. And he goes, no, I just hope I don't want to be here. I said, well, because I don't know how it came about. I said, well, if there's a nuclear weapon that blows up, I hope I survive it, because I want to help build what's next, right? That's what I said. He said, if there's a nuclear weapon that hits in Texas, that's where he lives, he says, I hope I'm taken out in the first wave. That's what he said. What, are you kidding me? So I'm with Thomas Paine. We have to fight now to make the world better for our kids. We don't abandon it, because honestly, the boomers and our post-World War II society, the United States' preeminent position as a global empire, we've benefited from that. Certainly the boomers we have taken massive benefits from that inflationary and resource grabbing policies. But you know what? we have a responsibility. If that was not the best thing for our children, which it wasn't, we have a responsibility to take action to fix it. I'm all about that. I mean, I'm not bearing arms, okay? But I think we have to. I think we have to be actively involved in shaping the future, and we have to be honest about what it's going to be. And of course,
and how to do that. What is it? Vote harder.
God!
What is that, Karen? We need to
vote harder. Yeah. It's what it is. I think it's to educate yourself, and also, I think a lot of people. I don't know. I teach young people online, and there's a stereotype of female teenagers. And it's not a bad stereotype, but it's a stereotype of females in general. And I'm a female, so I would like notice that, right? And that is, well, we're not really, we have to go along. We have to be cooperative. We have to accept that we don't understand all these things. And I see it in their writing. It's always like they end their statements in a question mark. Like, it's one thing to ask a question. It's another thing to make a statement that you think is true, but you raise your voice at the end. You're questioning, well, is that really okay? Is that okay with the authorities? I don't know. I might be wrong. I think I'm right, but I'm probably wrong because I'm usually wrong. I accept that I'm always wrong. No, quit that. Quit that. And I think a lot of people, Americans in particular, young Americans, are growing away from that. They're starting to say, you know what? I'm seeing it with my own two eyes. I'm learning different things. Hey, guess what? I'm right. The state's wrong. I'm right. The system is messed up. We have to give ourselves credit. That's where it starts. You have to open your eyes. And I'll tell you, this, conspiracy theory, right? That term created by the CIA 45 years ago, 50 years ago, 60, I guess it was, conspiracy theory and all that. Well, what we're seeing today, and the media is hugely helping, which is why TikTok had to be purchased by
talk about that.
Yeah, that's why Paramount and all the media in Hollywood. We've cleaned that up, better tighten that up, because people are starting to question things, question the stories that the government's been putting out for decades. But the questioning. Look at I don't know if you've watched Tucker Carlson's thing on the. He's got a 5-6-part series or something on
9/11. Yeah, I'm on.
And they're very short.
Episode now.
Well, they're very short, and nothing in there is anything that you or I have not seen before, right? He's very there's no new news there, right? But he's exposing it to a larger audience in a way that's almost, typical of the internet. It's almost TikTok size, It's like 22 minutes, I think most people can watch a little bit of that, and then they go, what? Now, of course, people who have studied it and care about the issue, and that's their thing, they know all this stuff, and they know more. They know more than he's providing. But he's opening the door to asking questions, and legit questions, and making assertions that, hey, you know what? Our eyes are telling us this. Our data, our science, our research is telling us this. But why is the government taking the opposite approach? And of course, COVID helped hugely with this, right? Because we said, our eyes are telling us this, our science is telling us this, but the government, man, they're way off on this thing. And now, of course, a lot of people believe the government. Not me, not you, but a lot of the people who believe the government are now quietly going, oh my God, the government lies so much. And this is it. So let's start being independent, free people. We are doing it. I'm trying to do it. But we need more people to think that way.
Well, they're always fighting the last war, and they think that getting hold of something like TikTok, even Trump was going, well, I don't know if I want to ban TikTok. It helped me get elected. It's kind of cool. We could do the kind of, and Israel. And what was it? Larry Ellison or some, whatever, Israel. They get this thinking they're going to what? Why TikTok? Why is Israel so on 7,000?
Oh, well, you know why.
They had street dog. I got to tell this.
Biggest weaving, the Zionist Israel, the state of Israel has been weaving the biggest lies and the biggest bubble ever. and they're highly invested in it.
Yeah, $7,000 an episode for influencers, and they had guys on the street and No King saying, "Why are you here for $7,000? Woohoo, man! I'm gonna, earn my money and do and cause." I mean, they're open about it.
Yes, they are, and again, it's
bragging
what
about
you said. It's what you said. The state is not agile. It's never agile, even if it's the Israeli state, even if it's Mossad. We go, oh, Mossad has so much capability. They can take anybody out. They can do all these things. They can blackmail everybody. Well, guess what? Even blackmail. That's that's yesterday's war. And controlling the internet, not going to happen. People are already cynical enough, and it only makes them more interested in what you're trying to hide. So Israel's in big trouble, of course, because the whole world is against them. And why are they against them? Well, because they're inhuman, okay? And they're cruel, and they're greedy, and they're murdering people. They're conducting a genocide that's been broadcast live for the past 2 years. But really, what have we really learned about it? Well, actually, the genocide of Palestinians started a long time ago. And it's kind of been steady. With every once in a while, you have a little bump up like we had on October 7th, 2023. And then they go like with the Charlie Kirk thing, right? Well, Charlie, like a lot of people didn't even know about Charlie Kirk. But one of the bits that Charlie Kirk said, and this was about a month, I think it was in November 2023, it's making the rounds everywhere. He said, I've been to Israel and their security's really good all over the place, including and especially the Gaza border. It looks to me like they might have stood down. And that's making the rounds. What? That's going everywhere. What? Israel stood down? It was a false flag? And then you tie that in with other stuff. So people don't believe the government. They don't believe Israel's government. They don't believe our government. And that's actually the first thing you can do. If you wake up in the morning, first thing you can do, I'm not going to believe a word the government says today. I'm going to make them prove that they're telling the truth. And of course they can't because they're not. But yeah, Israel is a terrible test case, but because it's losing, and Palestinians are winning, and the Palestinians are winning through dead bodies that are being murdered. So
is Gaza over? Is it done? Or we got peace?
Well,
are we going to award that Nobel Peace Prize?
Okay, first off, I don't remember any Palestinians except for one, paid for guy in a suit that even participated in that. So it wasn't a peace deal. It was a demand to it's unconditional surrender put down on paper. And of course, Israel under Netanyahu, this whole thing, they're not. They don't want. Their plan is very clear from day one. They want Gaza. They want the Gaza gas fields and the water. They want the Palestinians decimated, if not completely removed. They're happy to kill men, women, and children to turn the place into a moonscape, a nuclear holocaust without nukes. They're happy to do all of that and lie to anybody that wants to hear the lies. But to their own people, they say, we're taking Gaza. And when they speak in Hebrew, that's when they're much closer to telling the truth, even though the Israeli government, like all governments, lies to its own people, just like all governments lie to their own people. They lie to them first. But yeah, Israel has lost this strategically. And I think Zion...
Okay, before you go, I know we're tight on time here.
Project has lost permanently. Unfortunately, the Palestinians paid for this with their lives and their health. And a lot of people don't know is that one of the big motivations. It hasn't been over since even before then, when Great Britain decided that they owned something they could give to somebody else to solve a set of problems that they had. We need an outpost, and we need to get rid of these Zionists, and they'll help us if we help them. Oh, what a great idea! Well, no, none of that was a great idea. Typical state thinking, stupid stuff that they do. And we, the people, all pay for it. And the Palestinians are paying for it. But ultimately, that was really stupid. Netanyahu is not a smart man. I mean, seriously, he is a criminal. And he's kind of wily and foxy like a good criminal would be. But he's not a smart man. And his name has
been on crap for 30 years,
and
at least.
People cheered him on as they did it. He's been, 30 years now in power, political power, 20 years as prime minister. So off and on, I don't think continuously, but yeah, he got the vote, but the Zionist project has committed suicide.
Well, this one thing I want to get this in before you go, Karen. I want to get this in.
really a caricature of what states really are.
Okay,
They're all
can you hear
Zionist
me,
projects
Karen?
of one sort or another, and they all should be
Karen?
destroyed and collapsed and not replaced. But yeah, that's my take on Israel. But I say that as a person who isn't starving to death, and I haven't lost 3/4 of my family members and my children, to these to this stupid.
Well, they discovered oil off the coast of Palestine,
so it's easy for me to say
they're
that.
already divvying that
Yes,
up.
I feel
London
that. Of
comes
course,
in and
we, the
says,
Americans who have paid for this genocide, our suffering, our payback on that will happen. Okay, will happen.
well, the land. Can you hear me,
I don't
Karen?
think if you had a vote, hey, Americans, let's vote on if we're going to have a genocide in Gaza so Israel can expand. You think anybody would have voted for that in this country? Of course not. But we'll pay. We'll pay for what our government did. We'll pay in the future. And that's another thing, just adds to the bubble popping. Yeah, so we've got to be ready for all that. Well, anyway, look, it's 11. I got to hit the other road, and I'm sorry we didn't get to talk about Ukraine, but I got to go because somebody's waiting on me right now.
Yeah, okay, I'll let you go. The oil in
do I have you
off the coast of Palestine is a big thing.
Yeah,
and
I gotta go. I'm late already for my.
All right, go, Karen. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll continue with my thoughts here. Thanks for coming on, Karen. We'll do this again soon. We need to.
Absolutely. Okay. See you, Ernie. Bye.
All right. Peace. The one thing that I wanted to get in is that a lot of people don't know they discovered a lot of oil off the coast of Gaza there. So when they kind of, Israel, we're annexed, that's ours now. Well, interests out of London come in and they say, all right, we're first in line. It's ours. What? Where did that come from? How did that happen? What's the, then Trump comes in, we're going to put a Trump hotel and we're going to build it really. First they're going, no, they got to be relocated. That didn't go over well. So they go, all right, well, we're going to build it up nice. They got, this lunar landscape that we created and we'll make a nice house and they come back. Yeah, that's a ticket. So this is, and then of course you got Iran going. There's something underlying. I wish we had more time. We could go over her view of Thomas Paine's Common Sense, the pamphlet, the book. Whenever you hear in the old movies, the cause, we're fighting for the cause. We're gonna take this cause and kick the crap out of the British Empire because we got the cause. Well, what was the cause? It was for the common man. It was Thomas Paine wrote Common Sense. It was like, this is why the cause is that freedom's the answer. What's the question? This is what we're doing. This is why we're doing it. This kind of thing. And that will resurrect itself because the American experiment was based on a Judeo-Christian 10 Commandments, thou shalt not be a dick, and kill people and covet their stuff and steal it and, be dishonorable. Generations will respect their mom and dad and all this basic fundamental stuff and property rights. So a lot of this stuff was always about the purpose of government, why the Declaration of Independence is such a big deal to me. The purpose of government was defense of individual rights. Don't do that. Time to alter, abolish. It's your right, your duty. Well, this mindset is going to resurrect because it has to. It's the only thing that humanity has fundamentally agreed on since forever. Leave me aloneism. And how I get leave me aloneism is somebody protects my individual rights. I do it myself, or we, all collectively put, Fred with the big club over there in charge of, defending the valley or whatever. I mean, it's always the businessmen hire the sheriff in their little town to make sure, they don't, all the cowboys come in, don't cause a ruckus. It's all about protecting commerce, but they always have the sociopaths, the people that have no empathy, that don't care, no love, compassion. Karen was talking about one of her relatives. I just hope I go out in the flash. Screw the grandkids. I'm me. Well, this is not the natural state of human beings. Go forth and multiply. And our Constitution, Declaration, they go, for our prosperity. What do they call it? Our progeny, or they're talking about generation next. That has been, we're so the next quarter instead of the next decade. And it makes us susceptible, is to the degree that we were American, the experiment American, down to the individual, is what made us so prosperous. So where's the target? The middle class. Your savings, your property, your retirement, your money, your paper. Well, get rid of the paper. It's going. And I'm sharing this with my family, and I know that they see it, agree. I go visit, I don't even mention it. You know what I think, and but the backstop is the land out here. They'll always have a place to go, to grow, to educate their own children, to do, just to have that. And whether they admit it or not, they're like, it's always good, and, mom and dad won't be around forever, and it's in the trust of we can kind of whatever. And the grandkids come out, well, here's the corners, here's the property, which acre's yours? Who wants to build? The first one here wins, and it is, this mindset is what America was. It was dependent on yourself, your own industriousness, your own plan, your own happenstance, your pursuit of happiness, to create an environment for you to be satiated in the most basic ways. Food. This is going to become a food thing. It already is. We are so, and buy American when I can. I buy, but I need to spend $1,000 on getting the whatever, and it's $2,000 made in America, and even with the tariffs and it's get it from overseas or China or whatever, it's a third of the price. And I'm going, how is that possible? It's energy. It's all about energy. The energy to extract the ore, the energy to process it, the energy to manufacture, energy to deliver it, the energy. Well, they want to have a corner on the energy. That's where the money is, the energy. And then the financing crap that they can glean off everything. So this is why I like talking to Karen, certainly in a longer format, because we get to express ourselves fully. She was short on time today, and I wanted to make sure, usually our hour turns into 3, but it's so important right now for us to understand the fundamental basics of what's happening. And to our detriment, I don't think people realize, they're not educated on it. They're not, propagandized in the right way. That's our job. Truth, logic, reason. The truth will set you free. Why? So you don't get blindsided by the lies. We're close to, we made a big deal. Corbin and I, came up with the phrase, one of the audience members did. We were talking about this, and nuclear war, comply no more. I see a mushroom cloud. They do that. That's it. The whole reason you had government was to prevent that, to stop the wars, to not annihilate the planet, to not create this new fear, cauldron of the worst of humanity. Who benefits from that? Not us. Nope. And all this time they were just paying us off with debt. How are they going to get out of it? They're going to probably inflate out of it. They're just, it's not whatever, repudiate the debt, or, have a war and we're starting over, or we secede, or the people secede from the government, or something. How are you going to get rid of the clipboards? How are you going to get rid of the guy coming up and say, you have to do this and you can't do that, and whatever you do, you got to pay us to tell you, because you need somebody to tell you. That mindset is going away. And one of the things is, like, Karen was talking, water is a big deal. So our land here, the main thing that we're doing is had particularly using the land in such a way that you can keep your resources, keep your water, keep your money, keep, not having to pay $1 gazillion for food, to be more self-sufficient. The one thing that was worried me years ago when we had known we've been looking for land, we've looked hundreds of lots and so on. And our motivation was to make sure that we could ride out what I thought was coming. Freedom's Phoenix, from the ashes of Lady Liberty's torch, the rebirth of what? America? You know, what does that mean? Make America great again. America Inc., America Geography, America and Her Interest, whatever the hell that is, 10% of Intel now. Yeah. You know, this is, no. And it's energy. Well, now batteries and solar panels and autonomy from the grid is so, I get so many calls, you know, from my family, friends and everything about their electric bill. And you drill down on it and you see these extra charges for building power plants, nuclear power plants, on the property of the big data mining and crypto processing and whatever they need the energy. We need like 3-4 times the energy that we have now to power all this. Well, we're going to build it, and you're going to pay for it. I thought the companies, they wanted to build their own, you know, mini nuke plant to power their, peace. Go do that. I think that's a great idea. You go do that. No, you got to pay for it. Out here in the desert, it is turning farmland out in the desert. The state seal of Arizona is mining, ranching, and agriculture. You add water, it freaking grows, and there's plenty. Got 40 years of water underground for the state here. I mean, it's just amazing. On the other side of the Colorado River in California, it is green, farm. Right on the other side, desert, but that's starting to fill in. I can see the march. Here it comes. We are on the edge of the edge of the edge, out in the end of the cow trail. I built the road with my tractor. And I'm telling you, it's coming. What's coming? There are, I was at last couple of days over the weekend, I was helping a neighbor dig his septic. Because we have a tractor and we had met and I'm having a problem with this little mini X. I go, you know what? I'll just take the tractor out there, spend a day or two, we'll take care of business. So we did. That like a good neighbor. He has 100 acres. It's not as green as what we got here because it was stripped, for agriculture before, and he bought it and he's building out there. And what is his plan? It keeps changing. He's going, it's getting to where I was thinking of developing it, having people move out, buy acres. We have kind of an intentional community. Now I'm just like, no, he doesn't trust people. He's going, the people that are interested, they want to leech off you. They want to go, oh yeah, I'll come out there and, can I change my transmission in my RV? I mean, it's getting to where people are going to be more selfish because they have to be. Selfish to what end? To themselves, their family, their friends, humanity. We have been conditioned to, become Klingons. We take it. We're Vikings. We're gonna rape and pillage and pull it. And if we can't do it, we'll vote to have this guy with a clipboard go do it for us. To what end? What kind of American are you? What kind of human being are you? The reason I wanted to have, we'll have her on again soon because I really like her mindset. There is a reckoning. There's always a reckoning. And you get Trump up there, drill, baby, drill, get coal, big, beautiful coal. It's all about energy. Well, the cost of everything is energy. You go to China, what do they got? Bunch of coal plants. They're bringing in thorium reactors they're building. Fusion is on the doorstep. I've been, my whole adult life, we're going to have fusion. We have this power of the sun. Yeah, well, someday they'll get it. Then what? What happens when that energy thing is taken care of? Do they lose control? Do they want it? Man, Tesla, you got free energy. You could just plug into the atmosphere, the magnetic field of the Earth, and go, how the hell do we meter that? Who the hell wants to do that? So they wipe that out. So there is so much that is out there that here's a movie that will give you the mindset I want to share. It was called chain reaction or cold fusion. It was Morgan Freeman and Keanu Reeves. So that's a good enough reason to watch it right there. And it was all about, they had created at a university a fusion reactor, like a cold reaction that produced all the energy we ever wanted. Well, come to find out, there was, intelligence community operative keeping track of, kind of make sure it didn't happen. Why? To protect the energy industry and who made all the money. This is, the business of America's business, protecting the business that they want to protect, that they're paid to protect. So this is what's happening, and it has to be decentralization. It has to be you produce your own energy. Now, fortunately, in Arizona, that's solar. I have more energy. I'm good. That's a big thing. What if I build a little factory out here and I don't have any energy cost? Ooh, well, it's happening. Generation Next has not been prepared for making their lives self-sufficient, prosperous, educate their own children, grow their own food, the basic fundamentals that made America great again. Means going back to that. Means producing food. You're not going to go hungry. You're not going to be too hot, too cold, too wet, too thirsty, too anything. If you do that, then you can start to have a generous America again. That we think about our neighbors. We think about our community. We see our lives better by those less fortunate being helped to be more self-sustaining. We are so worried now about, I don't know what, mental health. I remember in the mid-90s, that was a big thing in the media, certainly here in Arizona. Newspapers, that was, mental health. We got to have mental health to get more mental health of mental health people. Then you have all these people come out of college being therapists. Got to give them a job. An online therapist. You got your online therapist? You don't have an online therapist? Where everything's recorded? I just want the audience and the people and my family and my friends to know that there is an alternative, and it's not something new, it's something old. It is self-sufficiency. To any degree that you can do it. We were starting to scream this before we went on the Love Bus Liberty Tour and then bought the land and so on at our home in Northwest Phoenix. We had a couple acres up there, horse property. It was really nice. But I have to at least power my bathroom light, something. I mean, I got to get a little bit off. So the studio, I figured out, we had a meter on all the stuff to see what we need. It was 75 kilowatts of power that the studio ran on. 75 kilowatts, which is, not ungodly amount, but it's enough. So we created and put it all on a off system. Now, we never plugged in the solar panels because we were already deciding to leave it. We had all the infrastructure there. Well, I took that and brought it with me, because it was all on one big piece of plywood outside the studio, and it had on-grid, off-grid, and it had all the switches and everything ready to do it. And then we decided, to leave. But the reason is I wanted to know what my power usage requirements were and how to do it. Now, on the bus, we are self-sufficient, but we had to reduce our energy demands. So instead of big PC computers, we have little nooks that we run everything through. We have laptops. We have. The price of batteries now has plummeted. It is 20% of what we did even a few years ago to equip the bus. And it's getting so possible, but you need a place. A place that if you're far enough out, you're out in the desert enough to where your Orion constellation, you can kind of see he's got a penis. You look up and you see, what's this star cluster that goes out? It looks like he's got a penis below Orion's belt there. I mean, I never saw that before. You look it up. Sure as crap. Everybody, Orion's penis. It's a thing. I'm going, wow, I never knew. That's my bellwether. If your Orion doesn't have a penis, you're not far enough out. This is the mindset that we need to have because technology allows it. You go on occupytheland.org and you'll see technology, and it has icons, for communication, shelter, energy, food, production, all that kind of stuff. And for a decade, we have been taking all of those stories that were on Freedom's Phoenix and we put it into that subcategory so that we could reference it. Well, that was pirateswithoutborders.com where we were doing that. Letters of Captain Mark in reprisal, and we had a lot of fun with it in describing our philosophy of decentralization. Well, that category, all our sites kind of interface with each other with Freedom's Phoenix as the base. We have Declare Your Independence, show. We have Occupy the Land. We have Pirates Without Borders. All that kind of has been research and segmenting a lot of these stories and information, and like Karen was talking about, YouTubes or Rumbles or whatever. You put that stuff up and you say, look, this is how to do it. This is what we are doing. And if we can do it out in the Sonoran Desert, I don't want to hear your whine and crap, So this is our last, I would think, mission in life. Donna and I are in almost our mid-60s. We're over 60, 64, 63. And I'm going, can we do it? Yes, I feel healthier. I feel stronger. I'm breathing clean air. And since the shutdown, they've been talking about this. I'm telling you, I'm seeing it. There hasn't been chemtrails since they shut down the government to the degree that they say it's shut down. They don't get paid. They're not up there spraying. Then we find out that Israel has been paying for geoengineering in America. What? Of course. It benefits them, they, them, those, the whatever. Ernie, you think they would pollute the air, the food, the water? They wouldn't do that. That'd be wrong. Wow. Where you been? So I just want to leave you with this. It is going to happen. It's been in our mindset as libertarian activists since, forever. 30, 40 years I've been doing this, since the late 80s. And I'm telling you, it has been a progression. And you can see one thing that will tell you where we're going. Their intent. The intent is total control. Those that won't leave us alone, believe they are entitled. Especially since they warn you, we're going to this. Are you going to let us? Okay, well, you deserve to be ruled because you let us. Up until you don't let them. And that don't let them is going to manifest in what way? A militia, states' rights, individuals suing the government, which I've done plenty, just to make them say it. But I don't even say it anymore. They're saying it in spades. We're going to this and that and get over it and wear a mask and take a shot. So and then you look at this digital ID thing that's coming. Karen, I'm sure, has a lot to say about that. Neither will you be able to buy, sell, work, participate. You got Gates and all these guys coming out and saying, by 28, if you don't comply and, get your brain chip or whatever the hell you have to and fill out forms, you're not going to be able to be part of society. Which society? Their society. Convenience. Okay. So can I create my own? Nah, you're not allowed. There's somebody out there being free. Look at that guy. He's exercising his own personal selfish freedom. And that, you saw that. This is when I first started seeing this rearing up during the Clinton administration. And it's been since forever, since and before and whatever. But it was hoarding. Hey, there's people out there hoarding diapers and baby formula and having, too much fuel, stored up. And they're hoarding. They're doing it wrong. You're not allowed to hoard. Then they start doing GPS coordinates for every grain silo. And I've seen this personally. And I'm going, what the crap? Who are you? We're here with our GPS to mark, because you have a guy comes out and inspect your site. Okay, you can start filling up. You're just not going to fall down and kill people, and permit of you did it right, and building of, okay, you're done. Then here comes a GPS guy with a thing on his back. Who are you? I didn't call you. Well, they just look at the records. They know where all the food stores are. Well, we got a GPS market of it's here, and when we need the tanks and the semis to come in and take it, we know where to go. Wow. What's the intent behind this kind of control, this kind of inventorying of Americans' resources? So they can take it, so they know where it is. Turn in your gold. If you haven't figured it out yet, you're roadkill on the highway to hell. Just saying. So we make light of it. We have a lot of fun. We, ha, look how stupid they're being, whatever, but they're stupid. And are they stupid? They're stupid to think that they're going to win in general, but individuals are going to win. Individual, Larry Fink, now head of the World Economic Forum, are going to win. Klaus Schwab, he won. He got out and took his, and the guy, okay, they win. Is it countries that win? Is it people that win? No. It's government. Government. Not governance. It's not how do we get along. What kind of, local taboos or norms or culture that you support. It's just we take it because we can, and we can because you're letting us. And you're letting us because you're confused, you don't understand, and we just got TikTok. Well, reality hits, man. And when it does, it's, man, I wish I should have, and I got it. Well, we're wishing and shouldn't and doing. As an inspiration, not just for our Don and I's benefit, but we knew this is going to be our life. We knew this was coming. We knew that we wanted to perpetuate the family. We wanted our children and grandchildren. Our grandchildren, they're living life. Our kids grew up poor, and they understood, and kind of activism and out there and kicking butt. And the restaurant that we had, they learned a work ethic. I can guarantee that. And now they are the best people you want around. Character, personality, industriousness, work ethic. Yeah, they're going to be fine. And they know stuff, how to fix stuff. They work on cars, machinery, and all of them got it going on. Our families are, our kids and their families and our in-laws, they married well. We're fine until we're not. But it's going to be that kind of mentality. If you're living in an apartment thinking that you're going to make this next month's rent, you're going to get another credit card, I'm sorry. Your life is going to get extremely difficult and interesting. My good friend Derek does a lot of our IT and so on. We were having this conversation years ago, and I'm going, man, it's gonna get bad. He goes, nah, not as bad as you think. Well, I was thinking at least a year and a half, 2 years for people just want to stop dying, and they just decentralize themselves. That's just the way it is. And he goes, no. When humans get to existential point of I'm going to die, they get creative as hell. They refocus their energies. They focus on keep putting calories in their mouth and do. Now, some people do it with violence. They go, I don't have to prep. I know where it is. You got it. I'll just come get it. Well, then you got to be able to defend. The best way is to educate the entire country, the planet, humanity, on self-sufficiency. And a lot of this is happening in Africa. Africa is like, man, we got to, make our own power, keep our own resources, nationalize our own, gold mines. And Doug Casey goes on about this a lot. He says Africa is going to be the power. And it's been ignored for so long. So what happens? Here comes the U.S., here comes the military, here come the wars, here come the regime changes, here comes the Chinese, here comes the Russia, here comes. Why? Because they can. Are they going to let them? It's getting more and more, especially when they got burned with all the Bill Gates vaccinations to sterilize everybody and the birth rate going, what the crap? Get the hell out. Is that the new norm? There will be a new norm. People will understand, like in Larkin Rose's book, The Greatest Superstition in Government, they're going to start to understand that they've been bamboozled. They've been lied to. They already know they're being lied to. They don't understand to what degree and how big this is until the debt spiral hits. It's hitting. This is, why did gold and silver go up? I've been screaming silver because I knew it was manipulated more. It's usually a percentage of the crust. You have a 15-to-1 ratio between gold and silver because that's about how much there is in mining of the crust. I mean, you go in, you get about 15% of it. 15-to-1 of it is silver to gold. Gold has a lot of uses. Silver has a lot of uses. It's a great conductor used in industry. All these solar panels, battery, electronics, and silver. Well, what's happening? It's depleted. It's going away. We're having to ship a bunch of silver over to London so they got some. This is going to go because if you go 15-to-1 on silver, that means it should be like $250 to $300 an ounce. Is it going there? It's probably going to blaze past it. The pendulum's going to swing, and then what? If you got your assets in paper, that's what the Great Taking was all about with David Webb. I understood exactly what he was talking about. We started recognize this in the summer of '08, how everything that you do initial public offering, all your stock really belongs to New York Stock Exchange. You just get to have some of the money, you get to sell it, buy it, they get a percentage, of every transaction, but ultimately, they have it. Then they changed Universal Commercial Code that is done state by state. It's not uniform. They try to be, but it's a state action. It does it. What they do by 94, they had created to where you have money with a broker, they go bankrupt, which is coming. It's kind of you had beneficial rights to it. That's how they word it. But who actually really owns it on paper is your broker. So when they go out of business, it's part of the bankruptcy. It's got to be, it's not just, all right, here's it back. Sorry, with that, but it's all good. No. It has to go through the court, kind of how much is theirs. It's kind of when they did in the island of Cyprus, where you had a lot of people were putting money there, like, Cayman Islands, here in the Western Hemisphere. That's where, the oligarchs from Russia and so on, they had all their money. They just seized everything. And then they go, we're going to give you a haircut. I love how he comes up with all these words. It'll grow back. You want your money back? Well, we're going to take 10% and you're going to sign right here. Or 15 or 20 or whatever it is. Bank holidays. All of a sudden, it's the new purple money. Or it's central bank digital currency money. All this stuff on stable coins, they stable to what? The dollar? Not ounces of silver or gold or anything. No, it's to the dollar. Well, what kind of stable coin is that? It's stable to the dollar, but is the dollar stable? Hell no. This is all a lie. And I will get absolutely no pleasure in going, Neon, I freaking told you so. Well, maybe a little bit. But not really, because I know what's coming. We encourage people to donate to us in silver. I go on air, there's a time that, silver, 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 you get extra, from free if you do silver, and people would send us silver. I get, old junk silver, pre-64, half dollars, quarters, dimes. They, just out of principle, they'd, send it, actually put a stamp on an envelope and, send it to us and so on. I really appreciated that because it was a demonstration of confidence of what was really valuable. And should I do that again? I fine. Support us, and best way you can support Donna and I is by doing it. Take that money and don't think you feel better by sending me $5-10 a month in our PayPal thing or Circle or whatever. There's a bunch of different ones. Stripe, that they use on the sites and so on for us. But I take that and get some solar panels. Take that and learn about creating your own energy. Take that and have a little bug out, thing. Got a trailer. Get something that you don't die. During COVID, when it first started and after, because you're looking at the 07 to 9 to 11 around in there. You could see it was coming, and boom, 08 the crash hit. Then there was COVID. Then there was the lockdown. Then there was. Out here in the desert, there are some areas that people have camping. I mean, it's really nice here, except for a few months in the summer. There were RVs all over the desert because they needed to. There are people taking the RV life. As we traveled on the Love Bus Liberty Tour, we would see, they would gather in Quartzsite in the winter months, west of here, about 70 miles or something from us, in between Phoenix and LA, out in the desert. And that little community, I remember, the year-round population was less than 1,000 people. 100,000 RVs show up in the winter. It's called the Great Rockin' Gem Show. So it's like park and swap for boomers. I mean, and lots of little businesses, all kinds. There's money exchanging out there. Here comes the tax man. Do you got your permit of the whatever? Yeah. It always happens. They're just parasites. You can't get a foothold without paying the crown. What happens when that stops? They don't get paid. They can't. This happened in Russia. The soldiers bringing the tanks like Tiananmen Square when they mowed down everybody under false pretense as soldiers that they're American infiltrating. What do they all got to die? They bring these troops in from 1,000 miles away to do their bidding. In Russia, it was a little different. They show up in Red Square with all the tanks and everything, and they start putting flowers and daisies in the barrels or whatever, and they go, "Hey, we're not getting paid. That our lives suck. We're with them. Next, done." And Russia fell. Will that happen here? No kings. Well, the people doing that, and the people that are I don't know if they're supportive of the Trump regime, but they're not seeing whatever is being offered them as an answer as the answer. So what is going to happen? I'm not certain, but it is going to happen. And what is most likely? You're going to recognize it when it's a food thing. When the shelves are empty. When even if you could buy it, you can't afford it. And all this drill baby drill, what were we thinking was going to happen? Energy prices are going to go down, which would bring everything down. That hasn't happened. Why? We're not drilling enough? We don't have enough energy? We're not the number one resource in the world in oil? We are. Past Saudi Arabia. And they're discovering more. Nuclear? Is that going to be? It's going to be an energy thing. So, are we investing in that? In what way? Who's investing? Who's going to get the cut? Who's going to make it? Make the money? How many clipboards you got to go through to build the plant? It's going to be Mr. Fusion. It's going to be Back to the Future. You got, in a little outhouse on your land out there, it makes all the energy. Then what? This is what Atlas Shrugged was all about. Galt's Gulch. Ayn Rand wrote this in the 50s, and she understood it was energy. And the reason John Galt did not make it available to humanity, because he knew it was just going to perpetuate this. It's going to come under the control of they, them, those. They're ration out. They're going to no. It needs to be decentralized down to people. Let this crash and fall for inevitable reason. You read Atlas Shrugged. Okay, I'll end with this. When you become associated with libertarian philosophy, you start meeting hardcore, not the party people, but I mean, the libertarians. And of course, we did a lot of activism politically, but it was, man, you got to read this. Definitely Atlas Shrugged. Got to read Atlas Shrugged. Atlas Shrugged. Why? When the financial crash happened in 2008, it was number one bestseller next to the Bible in Manhattan. I mean, it was all the financial guys are reading this. It became a thing. People understand what they're dealing with. You're dealing with they, them, those, doing what they can do because they can. and the finance and the control of. Competition is a sin, says David Rockefeller. He came in and just bought up any competition, squeezed them out, had contracts with the railroad, everybody, they got charged more, whatever. I'm in charge. Competition's a sin. And I read my Bible every morning, and I'm, God's emissary on the earth to be in I control. That's what the thought process was. Atlas Shrugged was about the character. It was about the mindset. It was about the woke people. It was about, how those think. What the math is, what's really going to happen, and that it's the individual in opposition to that will eventually rise up. So this was, you read that, when I read it first in 93, 4, around in there, I'm going, wow, all this I had saw happen. She wrote it in the 50s. It was the last. This is a big book. I mean, it's 800,000 pages, depending on what version you get. I mean, it's a big book. Takes you a while to read that sucker. We only had like the last 80 pages left of what her vision of what was going to happen. Everything happened up to the last couple of chapters or something. It was, this little stack of paper at the end there, and then we got right up. Now, since then, from 94 now is what? 30 years. 30 years later, we only got a couple of pages left. What she anticipated based on philosophy, based on the proper role of government, if there is a role, this was a map for us freedom-oriented individuals that can see what's coming. She came from Russia. She understood the mindset. She immigrated to the U.S. from Russia, started writing, doing movie scripts. They made movies out of a lot of her stuff. The Fountainhead, was one of the more popular, well-known ones. And it was all the same thing. It was the collectivist mindset, identity politics, Marxism, whatever you want to call it, versus the individual. Because it's individuals that make changes. Recently, there was a series on YouTube was talking about innovations in war, or whatever, World War II, what was going on. And a lot of the problems that were solved, what they were emphasizing, it was one, private, one corporal, one sergeant, one, well, what we need to do? We got to get through these hedgerows. We just need to build these cutters, put it, weld on the, all of these steel trying to, on the beach to prevent us from, landing. We just take and cut those up and make it a certain way and put on the front of the Sherman and just plow right through the hedgerows, and then we can go and kick ass and not expose the belly as we come up, and the Germans are just killing all kinds of Sherman tanks with, little bazookas, and we're screwed. We got to do some sergeant that was a mechanic figured that out, and they go, well, I need 50,000 of those. Some guy at MIT figures out some targeting thing to lead the planes. The kamikaze is coming in. I got this little sight thing that with a gyroscope that predicts and whatever, puts the sight, and there went from 3% of them shooting planes, the rounds that they had, 3% to 20%. Then you put a bunch of those in. They were getting 70-80% of the aircraft coming down on them, and the other Air Force is going, what the crap? What did they do? What did they fix? It's the minds of individuals that have the motivation to come up with an idea. It's always an individual. It always has been. It always will be. No, it needs to be a collective funded by the big giant science of a team of what. Now, and even then, it's still some individual. It's an Elon Musk that makes Starship. I mean, it's something. That is what's coming, and hopefully that is what's going to be celebrated and encouraged, because it's always some 8th grader right now that is going to be the salvation of whatever, and they need encouragement. They need the freedom. They need to be allowed. That is not happening now. It's all about control and who you work for. It's the FBI and the government going to DEF CON with all these, supercomputer geeks in the 90s going, guess what? You work for us now. This is, it's so bad, and it's what humanity has been up against, the entire time. The American experiment was the state, or whatever collective power we have, was there to protect that. Yankee know-how, American ingenuity. That was like a thing. And it made us the most powerful country on the planet. But then we became an empire. And the middle class reaped the reward and had shit tons of money and cheap houses, and mom stayed at home, and the nuclear family was the end-all be-all goal of get married and have babies. Well, that's gone. Will it come back? Yeah. At a greatly reduced population probably, but it will come back because it has to. It's human. And what are we up against? A surveillance state. And this digital ID is, if you read, I think it was called The Late Great Planet Earth by Hal Lindsey. I read in, I don't know, like, I was right out of high school, so it had to be early 80s. And I'm going, damn. And it has, just like with Atlas Shrugged, might as well just been Atlas Shrugged. It was, you know, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, these are the kind of people that do this is going to happen, Antichrist. And then this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, then you'll know because this happened. Well, we're filling in all the blanks. They're trying to bring it. Now they want to use it as an excuse for, you know, the New Jerusalem that rules you and knows where you spend your money. I mean, whatever excuse they can come up with to generate what they've always wanted, total control. Computers have that. Technocracy allows for that. But does it work? No, it doesn't. It never does. Because it counts on the industriousness of motivated individuals to want to work, to want to create, to want to increase their happenstance, their pursuit of happiness. You take that away, motivation goes away. Then you're Fahrenheit 451, 1984, and Brave New World. If you read those 3 books and we're in the middle of that. Here we go. Censorship, it be a comin'. And more than just censorship, it's surveillance and tracking. It's like social credit score, kind of what China's doing. You know, this is going to be from convenience and the pinky swear if you get, you know, like in the Soviet Union, we give you an apartment. I've experienced this. And there was about 81, 82. I was in New York City, and I was living there for about 3 months. I was helping a friend move, long story. While we were there, we met up with a lot of Russians that had defected or made it or, you know, escaped or whatever, had come to America. And they had their own community in New York there. And the new guys would come, they'd get them sufficient and, you know, put up drywall or something. You know, they'd have a job. They created their own community. They were self-sufficient as a community. One of the guys, he was late 20s or so on, and he goes, freedom. It was a holiday party. It was like a Christmas party. And I started chatting him up, man, you know, tell me everything. And he goes, you guys think you're free. You're free to starve. He goes, we come in, you don't have a job, they don't give you an apartment. He goes, I'm going to go back to Russia where I had, you know, I could sit on my ass and kind of almost pretend to work, and I had a place and stand in line for food. That was, you know, he came here, he wasn't of the mind. He thought something was going to be, America was going to give him something. No, they got all this great stuff. I could live on the dole better. Well, since then, that's what's happened. You get your food, you get your rent, I mean, hell, might as well been the Soviet Union. So it's a fundamental thing that we're dealing with. Thomas Paine, The Cause. What is this all about? What is the American cause? Where is this going? What kind of American are you? We're going to find out. And I don't relish it at all. And I just, you know, every day, Donna and I are just, you know, we maintain our sanity and our optimism by crafting our own property into a more self-sufficient example for not just us and our family, but to everyone. We turned what we wanted to do anyway into a little bit of activism, because that's just the way I am. So this is going to be hopefully a beacon, our mesh network that we have with communication. We had Starlink came online while we were, traveling the country. Boom, communication, got that taken care of. Solar got really cheap. It was $80,000 to get what I wanted to have now that I got for like $20,000. Woo, that changed everything. Then we got a lot of experience that we had on our couple of acres and how much food we can grow, what it took. We got the water thing in development, and we're dealing with that. The bus gives us really good shelter. This thing's a tank. The wind's out here 70 miles an hour. It don't care. It travels down the road at 70. I mean, this was a really good choice. I really like this bus. That's a good base. And it's just Donna and I, so, plus we got 18 acres. We're out, we got plenty to do being outside. We're healthier, better air, better water, more sun, physical activity. We extended our life, I guarantee, at least 10 years. So this is my message to the audience, and so you've been hearing me for decades. I started doing radio in 2003, and before that, we were political activists, running for office, doing kind of, I got something to say, here I said it. Make them say it. Say it! I am optimistic. There is going to be a world of abundance for my grandchildren. That was the plan. But we got to go through the ashes first. Got to go through them. I just hope it's not nuclear ashes. Will they do that? So that's my warning. Nuclear war, comply no more. Once I see a mushroom cloud, make me. Anything, make me. You're going to have to make me. I don't know, you think they can make me? We're going to find out. And you're going to find out, too. Hopefully you prepare yourself. Still not too late to get silver. It'll go up and down and whatever. But the only question you have to ask yourself is this. Will the United States government, any government, local, state, municipal, worldwide, whatever, will any government ever stop spending? Will they stop racking up debt on their credit card, which is you, by the way? Will they ever? Can they ever? Do they have any desire to? There's your answer. Silver to the moon. And then they had crypto, Bitcoin. There's a lot of promises there. There still may be some that we're working on the promise of, but it's not touchy-feely mind, and there's always a human element. They went in and turned it into GoldmanSucks.gov coin. So this is why we do what we do, why we say what we say, and how we know. Because I wanted to know, uncovering the secrets and exposing the lies. We needed to know. We needed to go out, experiment, do the activity. We needed to know. And what do we now know? We learn things. Donna's breaking out her essential oils right now. What are you going to do? What are you getting ready to do?
I'm making laundry soap.
Oh, yeah.
So stay tuned for the video on that. It's very easy. I usually buy a kind of a very expensive soap, but I can duplicate this, and it's about a quarter to a third of the cost, and it works really well.
What happened is we found out you go to the different general stores out here, because it's a heavy Hispanic community, a lot of farms and people moving out here and so on, so it's Hispanic. And from Mexico, I guess they make their own soap. They have, what do you call that thing that it's what? Zote soap, whatever. Anyway, it's just, she takes this stuff, well, you add this, flavored, scent of that, and she breaks out her essential oil or whatever, and she makes it within, how long does it take you to make how much that'll launder how much?
It takes me probably about a half an hour. I mean, most of it's just heating up the water and letting it all sort of melt together. This time I'm using Castile soap instead of Zote soap. I think this will homogenize better, and it's natural. It's either way. You can do it either way.
What are the ingredients?
It's washing soda, borax, Castile soap, water, and whatever essential oils you need. That's it.
And it's been working great. I mean, it doesn't have kill me stuff in it. I mean, our personal hygiene, Donna's regular bath soaps and detergents and lip balms and, lotions and chapsticks and what she's been making, just learning. This is something she's only done one other time. You did it a few weeks ago or something. And this is laundry soap that we have. And you could tell the difference. You can feel not being poisoned. That's another thing. Different plastics is what everybody's wearing. It's poly whatever the hell. And then you go, how did all this plastic get in my system? How did I get? Why is my testosterone so low? Why is it my sperm count is? How come we're not having any babies? Because it was on purpose. Duh. So this is exactly what I'm talking about. Donna's like, it's time to make the soap. Takes a half hour. She heats up the water and done. Kind of now we got soap for laundry and stuff and cleaning. And we're done. Okay. Where's all the soap? Grandkids go in the attic. Grandma and Grandpa have it. So this is the kind of thing that we're talking about. Little stuff. Where are they making all their personal hygiene? Where do they put the poisons in to kind of dull your mind, dull your will, dull your senses? Where do they put that? In the air, the food, the water, the hygiene products. Yep, I live clean. I've never cleaned. Well, I smear the man all over me. Stop smearing the man all over you. There's one thing I looked at. What was it? I was looking at the ingredients last night. I was trying. Yeah, we were looking. Oh, it was ice cream. Every time, once a month or so, I just need, give me a pint, and that, so I can, for a few days I can have me a root beer float. I remember my mother's side of the family is all Mormon. Whenever we would go over for holidays, because they don't drink soda, well, they made their own carbonated root beer. They'd take dry ice and put it into a insulated, those big orange, water jugs at football games kind of thing. They put dry ice in there and it would carbonate it. And they put the water in and different flavor, whatever. They made their own root beer. Well, now you got Soda Stream. Donna Soda Streaming the crap out of everything. And she just makes it carbonated water, that we purify here. And she puts a slice of lime and lemon in it, and she's a big ice freak. You gotta have ice. So she puts ice in it. It is the most refreshing drink when you're hot. It's just carbonated water that's pure and Soda Stream. Of course, you gotta buy the cartridges, but and they're not expensive really. And then a little lime, a little lemon, most refreshing drink ever. I go, what the crap is that? Well, when you make you one, make me one. Selfish, So she does. Remember, she makes sure that she comes whenever that's so awesome. Rehydration. So this is the attitude that I really encourage you to have. You could save so much money and have so much higher quality of product and poison yourself so much less by just the personal hygiene products. And you buy them, and they're expensive. A bar of soap goes from $5 to $8. Well, she can make it for, it's not free. I mean, each one of those bars are a few dollars. I mean, it's less than going and, getting quality soap from somebody else, and you're not poisoning yourself. But where do they want to get you? Wherever they can. Any and everything that you ingest, put on your body, the clothes you wear, everything. If it is a vector for they, them, those to lessen your will just a little bit, make you a little bit more dependent on you need a medication, a little bit more, you're not making babies, a little bit. Because what I realized in all our activism, I'm like, this is just stupid. There's bad guys in charge. We need to get the bad guys out. We need to vote. This time it matters because we got alternative, blah, blah, blah. No, it doesn't. It's the government itself. The whole concept of delegating authority to somewhere else. This is the problem. And if you can disassociate yourself from the problems a little bit, when the zombie apocalypse be a coming, when that happens, when the supply chains go down, what's of value? Personal hygiene products is way up on that list. During the hippie years, Haight-Ashbury and the hippies out there, all of a sudden they got a bunch of diseases they hadn't seen since World War I. They got trench rot. I mean, people, they weren't, bathing enough. They weren't keeping themselves clean. They weren't, they were getting infections and rashes and whatever. It was just simple hygiene. That's coming. What are you stocked up on? Stock up on knowledge. Stock up on raw material. Stock up on baking soda. Stock up on. Then when you get to where, well, I guess I'm going to have to go hunting and get the lard off of that, animal and bake. I mean, really get, down to basics, which is a lot of people are doing this. And you got a YouTube channel for it. Go to Rumble. They'll explain it to you. I share these things with you because it's our mindset, because I am, with day-to-day activism, doing all the research on the internet for all the stories. We do like 50 to 70 a day on Freedom's Phoenix of just what's going on. Wide-ranging, stuff of interest. And it all has a common theme. The possibility for abundance is right there. But that abundance is a target for those that can control the minds of the people in whatever direction that they want it to go. With TikTok. But they're fighting the last war. What's going on now is communication avenues outside of their traditional thing. The mesh networks, the communities. You're going to start seeing a resurrection of newsletters and actual physical newspapers. I guarantee it. We're going to do ours too. This is humanity keeping marching on. We always act in what we perceive to be our own self-interest. They are trying to change that perception to be Team Jersey government. It took generations for them to do it. But when they went off the gold standard in the early 70s, 71, 72, that's why Ron Paul ran for office. He understood what was coming. Now he's 90, and it's here. You think he's happy about it? I'm sure he has his personal happiness, his family, and so on. He's doing fine. But what was he trying to do? He had compassion for his fellow man, for humanity. He's trying to warn them. Who would listen? And why wouldn't they? Well, they're going to now. Make sure you're doing what you can, because every bit of effort you put now to soften the blow of a supply chain crash, a lockdown, a war, a clipboard coming and explaining it to you for whatever reason why what you thought was yours is not yours and you owe more money. How are you preparing for that? What happens when they close your bank account? What happens? We're going to find out, and I'm not going to get any pleasure in it. Thanks for listening. We got Dan Dix coming on, I think tomorrow or I think Wednesday. Dan Dix will be on about what's going on in Canada and Press for Truth. I'm a big Dan Dix fan, and it's time to talk to Dan because it's happening warp speed in Canada. I mean, it's already a thing, and you can see any of the commonwealths of the British Empire, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, I don't know, South Africa, maybe a little bit, and the UK, they're going warp speed into this surveillance grid state. You are a serf and subject of the king. The crown's going to tell you what's up in whatever form that is, and you have to get a digital ID. This is coming. This is a biblical warning. This is mark of the beast stuff. This is, the inevitability. There's been, you go to talk to guys like Graham Hancock, they're going, yeah, about 11, 12,000 years ago, the planet shifted, and all we probably had advanced civilizations back then, and we're going to go to Mars and find humans, or outposts on the dark side of the moon that we did, 20,000 years ago because our civilization went because of something, whatever. I mean, nothing's going to surprise me anymore. But this is repeating, and it will continue to repeat until the enlightenment of what we come together with a common mindset of we can take care of ourselves, get out of our way. I don't need they, them, those tell me what to do all the time. And when this happens, you got to be able to survive until the life of abundance. Because the technology, we use it out here. And it's usually old ways. How do you think they lived out here? There's old stone buildings out here in the desert that were the cowboys on the open range that were here during the winter months that have stuff from the 40s, 50s. They haven't been occupied for, 30, 40 years. And there's a little shack of we're there during the winter months and got a potbelly stove. But it is just interesting. Take grandkids and go out and explore this stuff. Say, no, they lived here. Before air conditioning, before solar, before. What happens when Yankee ingenuity is released and allowed and freedom supported to do it? And you don't need a permit, a permission slip, a building criteria. You can do whatever the hell you want. And humans do. And with the technology that we have out and just, heck, we do Donna's going to be making a loaf of bread probably today too. We got to get on it because the midday sun, in October, you need that. It gets over 400 degrees. You can bake a loaf of bread in 50 minutes. Perfectly brown crust. It's all cooked through. It's great bread. And it's not trying to kill you. Sun. Now, we got a little sun oven, but you can do it with aluminum foil and coroplast. I mean, it's not that hard. This kind of stuff is what you can find in different platforms, different books. We have a bunch of these books. I flip through them, but when it gets down to the internet's not there and I need a book, tell me what's up, we can do it. So that is what I hope for you, is that what resources you have now, what are they for? Feeding yourself, sheltering yourself, clothing yourself. Well, take some of that and put it towards doing it yourself. Because they, them, those are not going to be there for you. They're going to use food as a control mechanism. I guarantee it. Don't be controlled. Peace.